All right, good morning, everybody. Well, hey, Isaiah, good to see everybody. Good morning, everybody. Boy, you can hardly tell that you all really like each other. Getting these sessions kicked off is a challenge when you care that much about your colleagues. So, good morning. My name is David Kochanek, and I will be your guide for the next hour or so as we work through personal branding to accelerate your career success. So, who am I? I'm David Kochanek. I'm the founder of Executive Resume Writers. I've been helping people with their careers since 2002, so a long time now. I'm a former executive recruiter, did that for a number of years, and I have extensive experience working with people at the professional level as well as the executive level. In a nutshell, what I do is I help people build their personal brand and move their career forward. But that's not why you should pay attention today. Why you should pay attention is because of the work that we've done at Executive Resume Writers. We have over 6,000 clients that we've done personal branding for, that we've built out their resume, that we've optimized their LinkedIn profile and help them move their careers forward. We're talking directors, VPs, GMs, and even at the executive level. So what you're going to see today is based on all of those projects and what we've learned in that process. Our clients work at some pretty impressive companies, and they have some very impressive titles, in some cases leading those impressive companies as well. So here's what you're going to learn today. First, we're going to show you how to set a career direction so that you understand this is where I'm headed. Create your success story. How do you tell the career success story? Developing the tools in your branding toolbox, what should be included? Positioning yourself for career success, and taking action to get results. And here's my promise. By the end of today's session, you will know exactly what to do to create a personal brand that supports your career goal. Now, before I go any further, I have to give a shout out. So your colleagues invested time with me to make sure that this presentation could be the best it could possibly be. So Melissa, Adam, James, Hector, Carla, Alan, Adam, and Megan, of course, they are the reason that I'm up here, but they're also the reason that this presentation is tailored to you. Are any of them in the room right now? I see a couple. Go ahead and stand up. We got Adam, we got Megan. How about a round of applause just for everything that they've done? Awesome. And I know you especially appreciate these two as they've pulled together this event. So I want to share some of those lessons that we learned in these conversations that I had with your colleagues. And here's the thing. They're all being successful in the Hyatt organization, right? So these lessons, especially where they overlap in these conversations, I thought it was really important to be sharing this with you. So did they say at Hyatt, if you want to move forward and move up in the organization, you should sit back and wait? Absolutely not. Right? You have to be advocating for yourself. You have to understand, this is what I want, and I know the path to get there, and I'm going to let people know. I'm going to communicate my interest in this process. Can you avoid the numbers? You absolutely can't avoid the numbers. It's true in any business. The more you move up, the more you need to understand the numbers. What are the KPIs? How do we generate revenue? Where are the expenses? Where are the biggest challenges we have on the financial side of things? You've got to know that. What about operational efficiency? All of those things become more important when you move forward in your career. You can't ignore the gaps in your resume, right? If you're here today and you want to go here, you've got to understand where the gap is, and then you have to proactively try to fill those gaps. You have to look for the opportunities for you to get the experience so that you will be one of the qualified candidates for that next role. And don't go it alone. If there's one thing that I heard so consistently across all those conversations is, you have a culture here that's very unique. People want you to succeed. And people are willing to go out of their way to help you. In fact, even last night at a conversation at the reception, I talked to somebody who said, yep, I've been here over 20 years, and I just reconnected with somebody that I worked with 18 years ago at Hyatt, and because they were trying to solve a problem. They didn't have the answer, but they knew the person who had the answer, and they made that connection. So you don't need to go it alone. Make sure that you've got your team around you. And should you stay in your lane? And the answer is absolutely not, right? The more you understand about the operations of a property, the financials of a property, the more you understand about the different concentrations, the better you're going to be in your role. It doesn't matter if your goal is to be GM or at the executive level or to be at the director level. You'll be a better director if you understand the other pieces of the operation. How many of you have heard jack of all trades, master of none? Yeah? This is a very common quote that people will use, and they use it kind of in a negative connotation, right? They say, oh, jack of all trades, master of none, you're an inch deep and a mile wide. Where's your real expertise? Here's the problem. This is the full quote, right? It's jack of all trades, master of none, but oftentimes better than master of one. Right? It's better that you understand the other operations in the property, that you understand the other concentrations, because then you become better in that process. Does that make sense? Yeah? Good. All right. So first things first. What's a brand? Give me a just shout out. What do you, when you hear brand, what does that mean to you? Image? Yeah. Reputation? Excellent. One more. I got a bunch of them. Identity. Culture. Consistency.
What you stand for.
What you stand for, right? Excellent. So let's take a look. I'm gonna put some brands up here. When you see that insignia, that logo, what do you think of? Speak up. Luxury. Second. Yeah. What else? Okay. Quality. Here's what BMW wants you to think, right? The ultimate driving machine. Now, is BMW the ultimate driving machine? Maybe, right? But they're trying to set themselves apart from the other brands. How about this brand? One of your partners, right? Theirs is to care for people on life's journey. Not too dissimilar from the Hyatt brand. To care for people so they can be their best. Right? So this is what they stand for. This is what they want people to think of when they see that logo, when they think of the brand. So now, how does your personal brand support the Hyatt brand? Well, there are several different areas here. First off, brand ambassador, right? People with strong personal brands, they can naturally promote Hyatt. When people see their LinkedIn profile, when they talk to people that know them, they say, wow, John's an amazing leader. Carol's just fantastic at what she does. When people have that image of those personalities and they know they're with Hyatt, that raises the value of the Hyatt brand. You can also attract top talent, right? Who doesn't want to work with smart people who are clear what they stand for, love their job? If that is part of your personal brand, that's also great for Hyatt. That raises the value. And then finally, fostering innovation. So yesterday, in the opening speeches, or the opening sessions, I should say, there was discussion about AI, there was discussion about Agile, and those are some of the innovative things that Hyatt is doing as well. Well, what does that mean to you? Are you paying attention to these things? When those reports are coming out, are you reading them? Are you developing your own opinion of it? Are you bringing your own experience to the table about this? And are you able to talk about it? If so, you're a thought leader. You're somebody who's got the industry experience and you know what's happening in the more recent side of things, from whether it's technology on the AI or it's process on the Agile, the way of thinking as well. That makes you a thought leader. Again, impacting the other things. Who doesn't want to work with thought leaders? Who doesn't want to be part of that organization? Again, elevating the Hyatt brand as well. Okay, so what's a personal brand? This is my definition of a personal brand. People's perception of you based on your experience, your competencies, your expertise, your successes, and your interaction with others, right? It's pretty encompassing, and that's by design. And why is your personal brand so important? It's all about you. This is the business of you. You can either have a career that just sort of takes a meandering path, or you can think about, this is where I want to go, and this is how I want people to view me. This is about the business of you. What do you want people to think of when they hear your name? And here's the challenge. We all have a personal brand, like it or not. You don't need to be an Instagram influencer. You don't need to have a popular YouTube channel. You've got a brand. It's just, what are people thinking about when they hear your name? If they Google you and nothing comes up, that's part of your brand. Who's this gentleman? Mr. Wonderful, right? Who do you think was the first person to call Kevin O'Leary Mr. Wonderful? That's right, right? Kevin O'Leary was the first person to call himself Mr. Wonderful. And now he gets to say, that's why they call me Mr. Wonderful, right? He did this with intention. Even if you think about that Shark Tank panel, right? Nobody on that panel has the same cachet, the same brand that he does. It's by design. And is it because he's the most likable character on that stage? No, of course not, right? But this is what he did. He took control of this. Now, I'll come back to this concept multiple times, but you really need to think about, you get one shot at a first impression. And the trick about this is, you don't get to control what that first impression is, where it shows up. Is it in a conversation? Was it your resume? Did they see you online? Was it social media? So, how do you want others to perceive you? Now, we don't have a crystal ball. If COVID taught us anything, it's that we don't have a crystal ball. So there's a lot of things that can influence your brand. So what we want to do is we want to focus on the things that we do control. And I'm here to tell you, this all matters. What you do at work, what you do outside of work, what your resume says, what your LinkedIn profile says, what your social media profiles say, all of that is encompassing in your personal brand. And I want you to think about it. But here's the good news. You control everything inside that circle, everything, right? So it all matters, and let's control what we can. Now, I'm going to put this up here as a word of warning. This is not made up. This is a real screenshot of one of our Facebook pages. We run Facebook ads for our business, and there are 3 people here who responded to this ad that I thought I would bring to your attention. So the first is Anthony, and this was for an ad for resume writing at the senior level. Resume is only good if the individual reviewing them is competent, which in this market, I'm skeptical that's the case. So it kind of feels like maybe Anthony's got some venting to do, and he chose to do it on Facebook, okay? Bill says, why should we bow down to the HR hypocrites when most people can achieve better results with integrity, honesty, and competence? Wow, I hope when Bill applies for the job and the HR department is doing the social media checks that they don't see that, right? He's insulting the people who are in fact going to be screening him. And then there's Kevin. I don't need my resume done. I'm not sure why he clicked on an ad, but I'd welcome a date with her. He was referring to the woman whose picture was on the ad. Highly inappropriate, very unprofessional. Do you see how these 3 people have started to define, have just influenced their own personal brand, and they don't even know it, right? HR departments do background checks, folks, right? They will go through, they will look at social media profiles. People do or do not get roles because of what they see on that front. Does that make sense? Now, I know the folks in this room, you're not going to post stuff like that, right? Right. So I just want to show you, this happens in the wild. This is real world. So how does all of this fit with your career path? Well, the first thing is you've got to start with your goals. Where are you headed? Because once you define that, then your personal brand can help you move forward towards that goal. That's why we're doing this. So let's get branding. The overall goal is for you to be attracting more opportunities within Hyatt. That's the goal for what we're doing here today. And the good news is we've got a roadmap for success, and I'm going to walk you through that. We call it the Career Forward System. So this is the same system that we use with our clients. It's our proprietary methodology for helping our clients move forward in their careers, and it's also a proven framework to help them with that momentum, make sure that's there. Now we're going to go through this together as a team here, but I just want to give you a high level. Step one, you've got to determine your direction. If you don't know where you're headed, any road will get you there, right? If you've got an idea where you're headed, keep that top of mind. The key about this is, and if you're, how many people, just quick show of hands, how many people have been with Hyatt for more than a decade? Look at that. How about 15 years? 20 years? Wow, amazing. Excellent, thank you. Now, let me ask this question. In your first 5 years, did you imagine you'd be doing what you're doing right now? No, right? Right? It changes over time, and that's true of most people in most of their careers. So you don't have to worry about, well, I put a stake in the ground and now I can't move it. That's not what's important. What's important is that you've got vision for what's next and what's next after that if there's a higher level. Number two, catalog your wins. This is where we talk about where have you had success and which of those successes are most relevant for that next role that you want. Right? We all have that thing that we did a decade ago that we're very proud of. But if that thing isn't going to help move you forward to that next level, you don't want to spend too much time on that in your branding, in your resume, in your LinkedIn profile. You want to focus on the things that are most important. We'll talk about this in more detail. The third piece is perhaps arguably the most important piece. This is the career success proposition. That is, what is the success that you've had in your career that you will bring to your next role? Because truth be told, they don't really care so much about the individual and what it is that you want and that if you don't fill the gap, and we'll talk about that, right? You've got to bring the value to any role that you have. Finally, now you can create your resume. Now, listen, could we have written the resume without going through step 1 through 3? Sure, you could. People do it all the time. But it'll be so much less effective than if you have a resume that's really targeted for what you're looking for next. Then we'll optimize your LinkedIn profile. We'll go through that in some detail and then set you on a plan for success. So, when I talked to Megan about this presentation, I said, look, I could give a presentation, but I feel like if you left this session or if you left Dallas and you didn't have an action plan, if we didn't actually move your brand forward a bit, then I didn't do my job. So what we decided to do is do more of a workshop. So on your table, you will see a one-page branding worksheet, if everybody will grab one of those, and we're going to work through this together. And here's the thing. We've got a lot to cover. Are we going to build your resume in detail today? Of course not, right? That would be hours of workshop all by itself. But what I want to do is I want to give you the key elements. If you're missing some on your table, there's others on the table as well. And as we're doing this, think bullet points, words, keywords, not sentences. You don't have to be writing the whole thing out. These are the breadcrumbs that you'll use later when we go forward. Okay, so first, phase 1, strategy. So what we're looking for here is setting your direction. And again, we want to determine that direction because we want to know where we're headed. And what is the title that you're aiming for, right? So is it eventually that you want to be a director and you're very happy that you want to be director of F&B, right? And that's your goal. That's what you want to do. You've got your location picked out. That's what you want. Okay, great. Maybe it's you're aiming for a GM role. Maybe it's aiming for the executive suite. Whatever it is, get some clarity around that. But there's a plot twist. It isn't actually about you. Now you say, David, How can it not be about, you're literally presenting on personal brand, how is it not about me? And here's the thing, you have to think about your audience and what solutions do they need, right? This was my comment earlier. They've got a problem to solve, and what they're doing is they're evaluating you to say, are you the candidate to be able to solve that problem? And this is where we talk about the talent gap. So I'm going to use, I'll use two examples of GM, let's say for GM roles. So the first GM position that's open, let's say it's a metropolitan area, it's a very large hotel, the room occupancy is fairly high, but the event space isn't sold out, not even close, right? So the ownership group thinks of that and says, we really need somebody to come in and be able to optimize that event space, right? Property number two, let's say it's a resort property. And it's a little bit older, and there's been a new resort that opened up in town just down the street, and it seems like they're taking some of the guests away from our guest count, right? Do you see how the two ownership groups are going to have very different needs for that GM, right? In the first case, they're looking for somebody who can come in, hit the ground running, somebody who understands they've seen that challenge, they've been involved in solving for that challenge. And the second one isn't about the event space, right? It's about how do we reposition the resort so it becomes more attractive, we can get some of those guests back. Does that make sense? Yeah? Yeah, all right. And again, what they're trying to do is they're trying to answer the question, can this person hit the ground running? And this is what your brand answers, right? If you've done it right, that when somebody sees your resume, they see your LinkedIn profile, they say, yes, this person can hit the ground running for the role that you're looking for next, right? That's what this is about. So what is your ideal destination? First of all, you've got to be clear about where you're going. And again, if you're not throwing the dart at the target, there's no chance you can hit the bullseye. So let's first understand what's the direction. And that's what we said there. And then keep in mind, those hiring managers are looking to fill that talent gap. So action step number one, we're going to complete that first box there. So on the first box, it says, what is your long-term career goal? What role do you want to eventually land? And I'd like you to consider the property and the category of the property as well, if you've got those in mind. What are your greatest concentration strengths? And what about weaknesses? What is your next role that you will likely land on the path to your long-term goal? Again, it might be a two-step process. And what is the title of the person who's in charge of making that hire? Because they're your primary audience. Okay, we're going to take 2 minutes. I'd like you to just jot down your thoughts. Again, not full sentences. Bullet points will work just fine. But go ahead and jot down your thoughts and the answers to these questions, and then we'll come back. All right, how'd you do? Were you able to get those questions answered? Yeah? Okay, very good. So let's talk about step 2. This is where we're talking about your career success narrative. So this is all about the wins that you've had in your career, right? Think about where you've been involved, where you've had those wins, right? What experience do you have? What training do you have? What accomplishments have you made? What are the qualifications that somebody can look to and say, yes, they've actually got those qualifications? And what are those unique characteristics, the things that set you apart from the other qualified candidates, right? Because that's who your competition is for that next role. It's other qualified candidates. And if you do a better job of setting yourself apart in terms of the wins that you can bring, the success that you can bring, you're going to be a more attractive candidate for that next role. So first of all, identify and prioritize your successes. Again, where we talk about the prioritization is where are the successes that you've had in your career that are most relevant to your next role, right? The most relevant, those should be the highest priority. How did you overcome the greatest challenges so far? What results were achieved? If you can put a number on it, even better. That's the ultimate, is that you want to quantify those successes. And then again, which of these is most relevant for moving you forward in terms of that next role? So what we're looking for here is, where are those greatest challenges? In fact, let's look at it right here. So we're going to go to step 2 on this. What are the 3 greatest challenges that you faced in your career, and which of these is most relevant for moving you forward? And there might be 1, there might be 2, maybe all 3 are going to be relevant to that next role, right? Really focus on where you're headed next and let that be your guide in terms of prioritizing these. So again, we're going to take just a quick 2 minutes, and you can do it in bullet point format just so you have this. Because look, also, here's the thing. If you don't get all of these filled out or you need to put more time into it, no problem. You've got the rest of this week. You get to take it with you as well, and you can fill out more thoughts on this if it takes a little more thought, or if you want to refer back to your resume, something along that lines. So do your best in the next 2 minutes. Where are the successes that you've had, and which of those are most relevant to your next role? Okay, let's keep moving forward. Did you find that easy, or was that hard? Hard. Yeah? Anybody find it really easy? No. Here's the thing. When you read a well-written resume, when you read a well-crafted career success proposition, which we're going to talk about here in just a moment, it's very easy to read. It's very hard to write. I think it was Abraham Lincoln who said he had it was a long speech, 5, 6, 10 pages, something like that. And he said, I would have gotten it down to 1 page, but I didn't have time. Right? The ability to take all the things that you've done, all of that experience, and boil it down to those most critical successes, and then understand what the priority is, it's hard. You've really got to think through it if you're going to do it right. But you can see the value when you get it right. Now let's build the foundation. So this is the career success proposition. That is, I've had this success in my career, and I can bring that success along with me in my next role. That's what we're talking about here. And the idea being, all those qualified candidates, how are you going to make yourself stand out from the crowd? That's what we're looking for. And what the career success proposition will do is it will absolutely help you when somebody says, well, tell me about yourself. And when they say, tell me about yourself, or tell me a little bit about yourself, that is not the time to hesitate, right? You should be crisp, clear, concise in saying, this is what I do, this is the value that I bring. Here's why it's so important. A, it quickly summarizes the value you bring. It also demonstrates your functional expertise as well as your industry expertise. Now, if you've been with other organizations, if you're newer to Hyatt, you may have come from a different industry. There's value in that, and it also sets you apart if you can translate the success you've had there and bring it over to Hyatt. And this CSP, as we call it, the Career Success Proposition, it becomes the foundation of your personal brand. So let's look at a real life example from hospitality. So this is one of our clients that we work with, and he says, I'm a global hotel executive with deep experience in driving profitable revenue growth. My focus is transforming red zone locations into world-class destinations. Now, how long did that take me to say? 10, 12 seconds maybe? In just that short amount of time, we know exactly who this person is. We know what he does. We know where he's been successful. We know where his specialty is. So if there's an ownership group who has a property that is underperforming, do you think they're going to be looking at this guy? You bet. He's absolutely going to be considered for that role. Again, if it's well written, it's very easy to read, almost to the point where it's deceivingly easy to read, like, yeah, piece of cake, I can take care of that, until you actually start to write it. Then you say, all right, what's most important? Now, we have a concept called the personal branding pyramid. Your career success proposition is the foundation for everything that you'll write hereafter, right? Once you get this right and you've got clarity on the career success that you can bring, now writing your resume is much, much easier. It's also much more effective because you're writing a resume that's built on the success that you bring to the table. And once you have that, now filling out your LinkedIn profile becomes that much easier, right? Because it's built on the resume. And then finally, from a thought leadership perspective, and you communicating, this is what I see going on. This is how I see the industry moving. This is what's happening in F&B. Here's the transformation on the room side. This is what's happening in events. Why? You can have an opinion because you are a leader in that area, because you've brought the success, it's documented in your career path, and you've clearly communicated it on your online profile as well. Okay. So step 3 on the worksheet. I've included the example as well, just to help you. You can have it right there. But it says, I am a blank professional with deep expertise in, and there's a great big area for you there to fill that in. The next role that I'm looking for is this. My greatest successes have been in this, including this and this. So again, I realize this can be challenging, right? That's why we've got the example that's there, but that's why we also tried to make it easy for you to say, fill in these blanks. Like, just see what you can plug in here. It doesn't have to be perfect, but let's make some progress. So we're going to take a few minutes on this one. I'm going to give you an extra minute to make some progress on that. Okay. Kind of tough, right? I could see some thinking going on. I saw a lot of pens go in mouths while people were in the process of writing. So now let's move into phase 2, the branding and the planning. So step 4, this is where we create your resume, right? Again, we could have written your resume without doing these first 3 steps, but it would not be as effective as if you've got clear direction, you know the most relevant wins, and you can clearly communicate your career success proposition. Sometimes that first impression is your resume. That's why that's important, right? Because you may not be in the conversation. Somebody might be looking at your resume, and that's the first impression of you. And you want that resume to show that you know your stuff and that you can hit the ground running. These are the kind of sentences that hiring managers say, and so you want your resume to answer those questions. So we're not going to write your resume today. Obviously, that would take a very long time to do that. But what I want to do is I want to give you the most important building blocks here, and you understand the purpose of each one of these. Obviously, at the top, you're going to have your contact information, your name, your email, your phone number, and ideally your LinkedIn profile as well. But then we move into the summary. This is really the most important real estate on your resume. It's at the top, and it describes your leadership qualities, how you identify opportunities, and how you solve problems, right? This is the narrative piece of the resume. And at the very top of that, your career success proposition should be the first sentence in that summary, right? Don't bury the lead. Make it easy for people to see this is the value that I bring, and put that at the top of your summary. We sometimes get questions about, well, wait, what about the objective? Yeah, objective is something that we don't do anymore on resumes. The objective is more about, well, this is what I want, and that's right. You already know that's not who this is written for. It's the audience who is that next hiring manager, that GM, that regional VP, whoever it is that is reading this. It's about the value that you can bring to them. That's much more important. Then we get into the areas of expertise, and this is all about the keyword phrases. These are my areas of expertise that I bring to the table. These are in bullet point format, somewhere in the number of 8 to 10 to maybe 12, depending on how you've got it formatted. And this is about what you know. That's what the keyword phrases are. In other words, I check the box when it comes to efficiency on the room side, when it comes to cost control on F&B. I check those boxes. Those keyword phrases need to be in there. Then we get into the professional experience, and this is what most people think of on the resume. You're like, these are the roles that I've done, and this is the history of this. And that professional experience is where you're communicating what you've accomplished, right? If someone from Hyatt is reading your resume, do they need to know that the particular role and what that role did? Or do they already know what that role does because they're part of the organization? So don't spend too much time trying to explain, well, this is what the director does in F&B, for instance, right? Somebody reading that, a GM reading that already knows what that is. And then finally, education, certifications, awards. I know for some people it feels like bragging. Your resume is where you're supposed to brag, right? It's the area where you're supposed to share, these are the things that I've been recognized for, in addition to any education, training, certifications, all of that. And I just wanted to touch on the design side of things too. I've probably seen 10,000 resumes. I have no idea how many I've seen over the last 20 years, and I've seen some doozies, okay? And here's what I will tell you. Don't do the extra things. Don't put your home address on there, especially today with privacy concerns and that. Your home address does not need to be at the top of your resume. If you want to put the city in, that's fine, right? Don't put a piece of clip art. That globe up there, that doesn't mean you're an international candidate. It means you found a piece of clip art of a globe. That's what that means, right? It's just distracting, and it's not adding any value in this process. And then finally, text boxes and things like that. You don't want to do that because oftentimes the HR systems can't read the text that's in there anyway. Again, it's distracting. But instead, you want something like this, right? Clean, clear, concise. It's very good with the white space. It's easy to skim because that's what most hiring managers do. And I see people taking pictures. I will do one better. We paid to have this professionally designed for our clients. You all want a copy of it? You want the template in Microsoft Word? Okay, you can have it. I'll tell you what, send me a LinkedIn request and just say, David, I'd love the template. Just put it right in the connection request, and I'm happy to do that. And again, I think we got my name up there, but it's a pretty unique last name. So Kochanek is how it's spelled. But you can just send me that message, and I'll be happy to send you the Microsoft Word template. You can use that. Okay, step 4 on your worksheet. So now we are on step 4, and what we're asking is, what does the summary section of your resume need to communicate about you, right? Remember, we said that's the most valuable piece on your resume. What does it need to communicate about you? What do you want your next boss to read about you in your resume? That's what should go in that space. And then the second piece here is, what skills do you bring to the table that are most important to the next role? Not your ultimate role, but the next one. So let's take just 2 minutes on this. Go ahead and fill that out. What does the summary need to say, and what skills are most important? And then you can go back and you can revise your resume later. Let's move on to your LinkedIn profile. So step 5. Here's the big picture. LinkedIn is where people go to learn more about your career experience and your achievements. This might be that first impression. And here's how you can help them by making it easy. Make it easy to find you, make it easy to understand the value that you bring, make it easy to contact you, and make it easy for someone to share your information, right? For one GM, one VP to send it to another and to share that information. And your resume is going to support your LinkedIn profile. It's going to, and your LinkedIn profile will enhance what is on your resume. It's more of you have more of an opportunity to do some marketing of yourself in that online presence. Again, this might be that first shot, right? And you want to make sure that you've got a good first impression. So this is an example of one of our clients that I worked with, and what do you see when you see his profile? What's the first thing you see? The background, the smiles, yeah? Is that pretty much what most people saw? Yeah? So for me, it's that one smile that's cut off right underneath the nose. It's a little off-putting. And I told him, first of all, it's clip art, or stock art, stock photo there. But the second thing is the way it's cropped, it's a little creepy, right? So you don't want that to be your first impression. He is a very senior level executive, okay? So I've got mine up there just so you can see that I do walk the walk, but also what does a strong profile look like? You've got, first of all, it's complete. You've got a strong headline, a compelling summary, a professional looking photo and a professional banner that supports, right? You've got your skills filled out, recommendations, and your profile should enhance the resume, right? It should bring more to the table than just the resume because you've got that. So I feel very fortunate to have that I got to work with Chef Melissa. This was her before profile. And I want you to see this because this is one of your own, right? One of your own colleagues has gone through this process. So she's got a nice black and white photo on there. She's got the standard LinkedIn background. The headline underneath her name grabbed her current title. That's what LinkedIn will do if you don't put something in the headline. The About section is 2 sentences. And then you've got her experience section there on the right, which is just basically, here's my title and these are the dates, right? That's all that was there. And then her education at the bottom. Here's the thing. Hyatt's already done some of the work for you, right? They have who knows about the searchable image database on your website? There you go. You can go through, you can put in your location, you can put in F&B or rooms, you can put in event space, you can put in the city. Hyatt has already paid for professional photographs that have been approved for use. Leverage that, right? Melissa's in Chicago. Look at that fountain photo. It's amazing, right? Why not make that the background? Or if you're in F&B, maybe you pick one of the restaurants that you work in or have worked with on the property, and maybe that's part of it, right? So Melissa and I worked together. The first thing that we did was we changed the URL of her LinkedIn profile. A lot of people don't know you can do that. Because before it was like Melissa Rose 6257859, like it was just a random number that LinkedIn assigned. Here's the challenge. When you Google Melissa Rose chef, somebody else comes up. Because there's an Instagram influencer by the name of Melissa Rose who doesn't have anywhere near the experience of your Melissa Rose, but she's coming up, right? So we changed her URL to say Melissa Rose Executive Chef. Now it's very clear what she does. She's got a new photo and a new banner, and you can see now the headline is Executive Chef, Food and Beverage Team Leadership, Operational Efficiency, and Culinary Innovation, right? Very different than just the standard title. Her About section is completely filled out and talks about the value that she brings. Remember all the things that you've just been writing down there, right? That's all in there. And then for each of her roles, she talked about the success that she's brought, as well as the skills at the role level. And finally, is it there? Is it on that one? It's, oh, no, it's the next one. Okay, there we go. And then we also have, I said, you don't have any recommendations, but you've been here a long time. Do you think people would write some recommendations for you? She goes, I think so. She asked, she had 4 recommendations on her profile within a week. And what she said to me was, David, they said such nice things. I was touched. I'm like, of course, right? Of course, because that's the Hyatt culture, right? You guys support each other. And then her honors and awards, right? So she's a competition winner, manager of the year, and now her profile is complete. And look what happened. In 3 days, her profile views went up to 83 from basically nothing. And then she sent me a message 2 days later that says, actually, David, it's not 190%, it's 288%. Now I realize she started from nothing and those instant views, and the vast majority of those are coming from Hyatt team members, right? So now she's getting exposure within the Hyatt organization because of those recommendations, because her profile is complete. You see the value in that, right? All right, so step 5 on the worksheet. Based on your career success proposition and the next role in your career journey, what should your LinkedIn headline say? Next question. Is your profile photo professional? Does it reflect your brand? Yes or no? What image on your LinkedIn banner will best reflect your brand? Right? If you were to search the Hyatt image database, which of those would you search? And what events or awards could you highlight in your profile? So very quickly, jot those things down. Finally, step number 6, this is where we're going to set your success plan and move you forward here. You often hear it's about who you know, right? I think from a personal branding perspective, it's not about that. It's about who knows you. And this is your opportunity to take your personal brand into the organization and get the additional exposure that you're looking for. Again, attracting those Hyatt opportunities to you. So here's some ideas for thought leadership. And I'm going to quickly go here. We have clients that'll say, David, I know I should be doing these things, but I wouldn't know where to start. Well, we solved that problem, right? Here's a whole bunch of ideas. Articles, posts, graphics, pictures, videos, speaking or webinar slides, reviews of other people's articles. How about key takeaways from a Hyatt event? Like key takeaways from a Hyatt event, right? So here you are, you're investing this time, you've got individual experiences, you've got individual thoughts. What would you share with somebody who didn't come? Like what were the key takeaways from that? You could post that on your profiles as well. Reaction to news events, industry insights, reactions to industry announcements. Did Hyatt just announce another property? For heaven's sakes, what, 100,000 rooms in 4 years, right? There's a lot of activity here, right? Industry-leading activity. You can comment on those things. And of course, volunteer activities, because that's part of who we are as well. And that's good for you, and that's great for the Hyatt brand as well. So within LinkedIn, I'll go through these very quickly. I do believe the slides are going to be available, by the way. I think that is the case. So LinkedIn has really 4 different areas that you can leverage for your own personal brand. You can do posts. This is good for text, graphics, video. It's good for shorter messages in general. And your connections on LinkedIn will see that. So you saw Melissa's connections, right? With her profile increase, if she starts posting things like this, more people at Hyatt will take notice. Featured media, this is where you've got more of a clickable image, and it doesn't have, this is an infographic that we published, but it could be a banner for an event that's going on. Maybe you've got a big conference or something on the property, something along that lines. Maybe you are somebody who says, you know what, I'm all about the long article. I am going to tackle my view on AI and how it's changing F&B operations, right? Hey, that's great. And if you do that, what I would say is that maybe craft that off the LinkedIn platform. Do it in Microsoft Word, do it in Google Docs, and then copy and paste it over, do the formatting there, just so that you can get all the spell check and all the things right. Because again, that's part of your brand. And finally, on the accomplishment side of things. So if you were quoted, for instance, in a Dallas restaurant website or something like that, and you wanted to draw attention to that, you could post something about that article and then have a link over to there. Those accomplishments are really good for that. And the thing is, this becomes part of your profile, like a permanent part of, permanent, you can always take it off, but it stays, unlike the posts that are kind of the moving river of content, this one sticks with your profile. And in the early going, it's important. It's not important the volume that you post or things that you're putting out there, but the fact that you are doing it. You saw by Melissa making some very simple changes, she got some additional activity there. And the final thing, in your network, who can help you move forward, right? This is where you think about who are the people that you know that can mentor you, that can introduce you to people that will help you along the way to that next role. This is all part of, once you've got that branding together, you actually become easier to help, right? It becomes more clear when people see your profile, when they read your resume, they've got clarity about the value that you can bring. You just made it easier for them to help you move to your next role. Okay, action, the final one. Here we go. Step 6. Who in your current network can help you move forward on your preferred path? They can provide you with feedback. They can introduce you to the right people. Jot down 3 names. Who are those folks? Maybe you already have them and it's crystal clear. Maybe you don't, and you ought to. So start thinking about who those people might be. And then the very last question, what are the first 3 things that you will do to move your brand forward? Is it message David and get the resume template? Is it complete the rest of the worksheet? Is it go back and update your resume? Is it create a LinkedIn profile if you don't have one? What is it? What are the things? Maybe it's updating the image on that. Jot down those first 3 things that will help move that brand forward. So let's recap. Your personal brand is about making a great first impression and positioning you well for the roles that you're most interested in. What we covered today is setting a clear direction, creating your career success story, develop your brand. That career success proposition is the foundation inside that pyramid, positioning yourself as a thought leader, and then taking action to get results. So we talked about the career forward system and the map to walk you through. We talked about the personal branding pyramid and the importance of that career success proposition. The career success proposition is the foundation of that pyramid. And we talked about all those things that matter on the job, off the job, your resume, your LinkedIn profile, and how that helps shape the brand as well. All right, how are we doing on time? Got a time check? 2 minutes. Oh, well, okay. So 2 minutes. Do you have any questions? I know we went through that very quickly, but do you have questions? Great question. Great question. So the question was, how do I feel about resumes that are longer than 1 page? As somebody who has been reviewing and writing resumes for now over 2 decades, I've got a rule of thumb that applies 98% of the time. If you have less than a decade or 12 years of experience, there's no way your resume is more than 1 page. No way. Okay? You might even have 15 years, and if you do a really good job, you can still get it to 1 page. If you've got 20, 25 years, we have executives that we work with that have 30 years of experience. They'll come to us with 6 or 7 pages. We get it down to 2. Very rarely will it go to 3, okay? Again, the resume shouldn't say every single thing you've done. Now, there are exceptions. The CV format for doctors and professors and things, those tend to be a different format, right? But really, it's 1 to 2 pages, and that's it. And if you've done a good job, it tells the story, and then you left something for at the table for the interview to have a conversation about. Great question. Other questions? All right, so the question is, should you put your picture on the resume or not? Not, right? There's a couple reasons for that. One is that as humans, we're very visual, and our biases are often unconscious, okay? You don't want your picture setting you, either moving you up or setting you back, either way. And the other is age discrimination. And sometimes a photo can tip that hat. And so we recommend not having a picture on there. Your LinkedIn profile, that is, if you don't have your picture on your LinkedIn profile, it kind of stands out, right? Because that platform, if you're going to have a LinkedIn profile, you need to have it. You had a second question.
Is there a better time to post on LinkedIn to capture the most visibility?
All right, so the question is there a better time to post to capture the visibility? And the answer is, I don't know. Right? It's you could try to really work the algorithm, but the way I think about it is think about people's schedules. Right? It's Monday morning, right? Monday morning, I'm not looking at LinkedIn. Right? I'm catching up on emails. I'm doing all that kind of thing. Much more important is to think about the value that you can add with the post, and then post that, and then work your network and say, hey, I just posted this thing. Take a look. Let me know what you think. I think there's much more value in worrying about that than the timing of it. All right. So that's going to wrap it up. I really appreciate your attention today. I hope you got tremendous value from this session. Again, thank you to your colleagues for giving me some background on the Hyatt culture and the career path. Again, my name's David Kochanek. ExecutiveResumeWriters.com is the company, but just hit me up on LinkedIn if you're looking for that resume template or if you have any other question. Thank you, everybody.